After spending about 10 months with my Moza R9, I made the decision to upgrade my sim setup once again. But this time, I got myself a Simagic Alpha U, as Moza R9 was simply not cutting it for me. The video is divided into multiple sections for your convenience. Before I begin, please bear this in mind that it is not just about the overall torque output of the base which enhances your feeling. It is about how you set up the force feedback. And here is the tricky bit. A lot of people might find setting up their force feedback a bit overwhelming because of all the terminologies and sliders. So they end up copying from others. Not that there is anything wrong with it. It is just that force feedback is a very subjective matter and not a lot of people are familiar on where to begin with. What I am liking will not necessarily translate to your liking. So if you are new to the direct drive world or thinking of investing in one, please take the time out to figure out what each setting does before jumping to any sort of conclusion. Now, on to the decision of switching. So, my experience with the R9 was refreshing. As I upgraded from a Thrustmaster TX, the shift from build-driven to direct drive wheelbase was phenomenal. You guys know me, I am a sucker for rally games, and rally was the first thing I tried as soon as I got my hands on the R9. All of a sudden, I could feel the car's weight, the surface, every little thing was enhanced. And because I was so used to the Thrustmaster's feedback, I was expecting a belt pull, but the smoothness of the wheelbase had me by surprise. I got used to it within a week and was able to push a lot harder. I broke every single record that I had made by a significant margin while spending a lot of time tweaking the force feedback. It was all going good. But then I started making some more changes, and it was at that time that I felt something is off. There was oscillation whenever I tried to play with the dampening settings, and somehow I always felt this slight notchiness. I would spend days tweaking it to my liking, but couldn't get it to work exactly how I liked. There was always a trade-off. But once again, I would like to remind you, whatever I have felt is applicable to me only. It does not mean that R9 is a bad base or the force feedback quality is poor. It is just that the settings are subjective, so you might not feel what I have felt. Now, as I played more and more, I got used to the torque. So I started to increase the torque output of the base gradually until I maxed it out, which meant more tweaking so the force feedback won't clip. Now, the amount I paid for the R9 justified the experience and I had a blast these past 10 months. I kept playing in denial that maybe I don't need more power, but the change was inevitable. Now what you want is a decent powered wheelbase, but the main objective should be to feel the finer details. You don't want to wrestle with the wheel. For a lot of sim racers, 9 Newton meters is more than enough. Unfortunately, that was not the case with me. This is a 23 Newton meter wheelbase. This is the best Simagic has to offer as of now. They have 3 different bases in their Alpha lineup: the 10 Newton meter Alpha Mini, 15 Newton meter Alpha and the 23 Newton meter Alpha U. According to some users, Simagic has been known to hide the true peak torque output of a wheelbase, and word on the street is that Alpha Mini's actual peak torque is 13 Newton meter, despite the product description saying otherwise. Alpha Mini users have also claimed that the wheelbase definitely feels stronger than 10 Newton meters. I personally haven't tried it, and there isn't any official word from Simagic on this, so take it with a grain of salt. What does it mean for the Alpha or the Alpha U? Are these wheelbases capable of producing more torque than advertised? Perhaps, but that is for you to decide. Coming from Moza, this wheelbase felt incredibly smooth. There is no notchiness or any sort of ripple effect. It is so smooth that I had to turn down the smoothening. The slew rate was working its magic and the quality of force feedback was just chef's kiss. Now, if you don't know what slew rate is, it is the time taken for your direct drive motor to reach its maximum torque. The Simucube 2 Sport, which is rated at 17 Newton meters of peak torque, has a slew rate of 3.5 milliseconds. Meaning it can reach from nothing to 17 Newton meters of torque in 3.5 milliseconds. A lot of factors come into play while talking about slew rate, such as the diameter and weight of your wheel, the motor itself, and the games and Wheelbase's software. But the real question is, does the slew rate actually matter? Well, yes. You want the force feedback to be received as quickly as possible for those micro corrections, right? But let's not focus too much on this. In simple words, Alpha U is buttery smooth and insanely quick. I got injured 2 days after getting it. I was playing Automobilista 2 at about 13 to 15 Newton meters and my car went over a sausage curb and I hurt my hand. I had to stop immediately. Please keep this in mind that injuries can happen and these wheelbases are more than capable enough to break your bones. I'm not even talking specifically about high powered bases. Even the 10 Newton meter bases should be handled with proper care. Before I begin, I will be pointing out the good and bad of both of the wheelbases, so don't assume that one is better than the other. Both wheelbases cater to different users for different purposes, and they both are good at what they do. Now, the Alpha U costs about $2,000 in my country, including the shipping and the taxes. And that is for the wheelbase only. I have not included the price of the wheel yet. Compared to that, the Moza R9 and CS wheel costs about $1,200–$1,300 inclusive of all taxes. So again, not a fair comparison, but I'll try to be as transparent as possible. I really liked how the road textures and curbs felt on my R9. It felt very analog or real, and when setting up the base, you want to make sure that you are setting it up for as realistic feel as possible. Even without a lot of tweaking, the R9's default profiles were pretty good. In comparison, the Alpha U does not quite sit there. I mean, the quality is really crisp and I like how it feels, but in terms of road textures, I always felt something lacking. The sand and the grass effects were a tad bit off. The road effects were too crisp to my liking, and when I tried to dampen it, the curb effect went down as well, making it a little bit of trade-off. In Moza's software, there was a frequency slider for this particular thing, which really came in handy. There is no such thing in the Simagic software as of now, so it's a different experience, and I'm still learning my ways around this. So I will update you all in the near future for a long-term review of this product. Now, in terms of details provided by the Alpha U, I have been able to feel the suspension of the car as it moves around. I can feel the weight shift more drastically. There is this limit where the car is merely moments away from a disaster. I can feel that limit and I can keep my car over there. And whenever I'm at the limit, it's like the time has slowed down and I could feel every inch of my car. I could feel the rear end slide, I could feel the oversteer, I could feel the understeer. Every single detail is just presented to you, and this only says that the quality of force feedback is immaculate. Whenever I'm lapping Nordschleife, I'm often finding myself pushing the car more and more aggressively, without a whole lot of consequences. The car of course retaliates, but because of the slew rate and the overall smoothness of the base, I'm able to make those micro corrections so I don't end up in the barrier. And you can really feel those tiny details which are often missed. Previously on the Moza R9, I felt everything was great and there was no noticeable graininess. But the moment I started playing with Simagic, I instantly knew how much grainy R9 felt and how much I was used to it. So if you are playing on the R9 and it is going to be only wheelbase, you won't feel the graininess or the notchiness. It is only a minor issue and it will require a lot of attention to even notice it in the first place. A good software is very expensive to write, and software wise I have to give the edge to Moza Pit House. If you are a beginner, then Moza's software is the least likely to overwhelm and intimidate you. Overall, both software have their own pros and cons. And Moza Pit House has had its fair share of disconnects, crashes and failures to load a profile, but it gets ironed out regularly. Not saying that Simagic's software is bad, it is just Moza's is a tad bit better. Simagic recently changed their software and now it is called the Sim Pro Manager. It is a bit buggy and let's just say that I am not a huge fan of their software. It works fine for the most part, so it's alright for now. Also, I should mention that it is in beta, so they might add some new things, and hopefully the final build of their software does some justice to the wheelbase. The only weakness of Simagic is their software. If they write a great software, this wheelbase would be absolutely perfect. One other thing I should mention is that Moza has the option to disable the base LED indicator. Simagic does not have it, and I would welcome that feature in Simagic's ecosystem. The green light can be blinding or annoying to some people, myself included. While it remains in my peripheral vision, I have learned to live with it. Alright, so final thoughts on my experience with the shift from Moza R9 to Simagic Alpha U. I made the switch because 9 Nm was proven to be insufficient for me, and upon switching, the experience was simply captivating. The overall smoothness is remarkable with no noticeable cogging, notchiness, or any sort of ripple effect. The quality of force feedback is excellent, and the wheelbase is capable of capturing those granular details. It is truly a delight to play on. The software does need a little bit of work, but overall I am very satisfied with the product. Now, because I have shifted to a high-end hardware, does that mean you should too? I can give you a simple answer of yes and no, but I would recommend that you do proper research, spend time with your current hardware, and identify what is it that you want, and then make a smart decision. If you have any sort of questions that I might have missed in the process of making this video, or you want to share your experiences, please let me know in the comment section down below. I have been Dart Snape, and may the downforce be with you.